Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Learning Series event. I know this is normally our Heroes Connect time, but today we want to talk about covering mastering virtual career fairs and employer engagement. So we started these events, these workshops, we do them periodically to assist the broader military community with tips and tricks to do various things, and in this case, to help land that next career. Whether you're currently in the process of separating out of the service or are already out, transitioning from the military, as you've come to know, is a process. Or if you're a military spouse joining us today, looking for your next career every time you move, this event is also beneficial to help better understand how to continue to make yourself competitive each change of station. So, and with the way things are going nowadays, understanding how to do all of this in a virtual environment is crucial. So, welcome again. Let me introduce myself. My name is Katie Bowerman. I'm a senior manager with the Manufacturing Institute, and I oversee the virtual Heroes Make America Military Skill Bridge Training Program, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a minute. So, in addition to a variety of other virtual events like these workshops or Heroes Connect events that we put on for our transitioning military, veterans, and military spouse community. So let me take a minute to also have my co-presenter. So I do have a co-presenter today. Let me introduce her or let herself introduce herself before we dive into today's presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Wolford, and I am the Director of Program Operations for Heroes Make America. I am currently located right outside of Fort Riley, Kansas, and I oversee all of our DoD Skill Bridge programs while also focusing on process and operational improvements. So I look forward to co-leading today's session alongside Katie.
Thank you, Rachel. Before we dive into the presentation, I do want to do some general participation guidelines just to be sure that we're all on the same page. So first off, the event is being recorded and will be sent out as part of a recap email. So be sure you stay muted throughout the presentation just to minimize any background noise so that we have a clear recording in the end. But I still encourage you to be an active participant. This presentation is designed to give you tips and tricks. So questions that you have, feel free to drop them in the chat. And then after the presentation, Rachel and I will go through the chat and answer any questions that you all have. But this is your opportunity to really set in a safe environment, right, as we're here today, before you go to these different events like the virtual career fairs, or if you take this information and take it over to an in-person career fair. I also want to cover, because not all of our students today or not all of our participants today are Heroes Make America students. So I want to take a brief moment to highlight what Heroes Make America is, and that our mission is really to build connections between the military community and the manufacturing industry. You can see here the different areas that Heroes Make America focuses on. One, where it all started, our signature DoD approved SkillBridge program. We have 8 different training programs across the country, 5 in person and 3 virtual, in which we train transitioning service members in various skills that are needed by our industry. So I'll go over those in just a second. Secondly, we do have our almost weekly Heroes Connect events where we bring in various companies for our military community to learn about who is out there and hiring. Third, last year we did kick off this veteran learning series. We have it periodically, but the goal of these is to help you in your career search. And then lastly, we also have virtual career fairs that we do quarterly that are manufacturing focused. And our next one is this Friday, August 23rd. We do have other ones that are coming up in person. So if you happen to be at Fort Liberty in North Carolina or Fort Stewart in Georgia, the Liberty in-person career fair will be September 18th, and the Fort Stewart, Georgia one will be on November 7th. So I know we're busy here with Heroes Make America, but we're going to drop in our contact information into the chat so you can see different links and connect with us on any different opportunities that you're interested in. So while you guys are looking over that type of stuff in the chat, I do want you to know that, if you're not familiar with Heroes and our DoD Skill Bridge program, you can see here our program managers, the 3 training pathways that we offer, and those are in manufacturing operations, industrial systems, and logistics. I have here listed our upcoming class dates, and then, like I said, we'll drop in our contact information if you're interested in any of our classes. But I do want to put a shameless little plug here, though. Don't forget, though, if you are one of our current students or maybe not one of our students and you're not able to attend our program, tell your battle buddies if you think this program might be beneficial for them as they're transitioning out of the military, or if they're a veteran looking to upskill and do some certifications. All right. We are doing this workshop mainly in preparation for the upcoming virtual career fair that is scheduled for this Friday, August 23rd. You can see here that it's 11 to 1 Eastern, so please be sure that you adjust your time zone accordingly. So 11 Eastern is when it'll start. However, this presentation is geared towards any virtual career fair, and it can even be carried over, like I said, into other in-person events or other engagement opportunities that you have with employers. I do want to point out though, when you're looking at career fairs, you do want to be mindful that a lot of times there is a registration required, whether it's virtual and or in person. So just be sure that you do register for the events to get updated information. And sometimes they do provide like an employer list ahead of time for you to be able to do research ahead of time. Okay. And if on the registration it gives you the opportunity to upload your resume, I highly recommend uploading it as a PDF so that they can share that out with their employers. All righty. For the one on Friday, in particular, let's say you didn't upload your resume as part of your registration. You need to go back and adjust it. I do want to provide some detail. So if you know that you did already register for Friday's career fair, hadn't uploaded your resume, don't stress. You can go back in and modify your registration. You should have gotten an email pre-registered with the Zoom link. And at the bottom, you can see here there's an option to modify your registration. With that, you can upload your registration, or let's say you registered a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and you've made changes to your resume. You can always go back in and replace the resume. You can upload a different version, and I recommend doing it as a PDF so then the formatting of your resume doesn't change when someone opens your resume on the other end. All right, so now that we've covered some of those basics, I do want to move on to our main topic for today. So I'm going to actually pass it on over to Rachel, where she's going to talk us through the first portion of preparing for virtual career fairs. Rachel, over to you. Oh, you're muted, Rachel.
It always happens at least once a day, right? We forget that we're muted. So remember that for the career fair as well. Unmute yourself when you're going to ask a question. So what we're going to do now is we're really going to dive into the details of how to achieve success in three areas by covering what to do before, during, and after the event. Next slide, Katie. Thank you. So get ready to supercharge your success at the Heroes Make America Virtual Career Fair. Buckle up as we dive into the crucial steps you need to take in order to make sure that you stand out. We're talking all about preparation, gearing up, fine-tuning your documents, and uncovering the secrets of pre-event research. It's time to up your game and get ready to conquer our virtual career fair opportunities like a pro. This morning, if you registered for the career fair, you should have received an email like the one pictured above. That email included an attachment with critical pieces of information about the employers that are currently scheduled for the event. If you did not receive this email or you do not see it, please check your spam or junk email folders. I'm going to also quickly, while we're thinking about it here, I'm going to drop it in the chat so that if you do not have that, we can get it to you very quickly here. Let's see how quick I can be. All right, so there is that document as well. It's uploading into the chat. So that way, if you didn't receive that in your email, you can take a look at that as we're working through this session with you today. So now that you know what to look for, let's dive into how to use the information in that document. Okay, so as you can see, the employer details attachment really provides you some critical information that you can use to start researching employers in advance of the event. We also provide you the dedicated point of contact for each organization so that you can follow up after the event, which we'll discuss in just a few moments. Right now, let's focus on the pre-event prep. It's our recommendation that you visit each employer's career website as you see linked on this document, even if they reference that they're only hiring for a specific area or region. Keep your options open. You never know what unique opportunity may present itself to you unless you're willing to explore those options. We also recommend that you spend some time on their About page to learn more about the organization as a whole. Let's take a look at what these pages may look like on the next slide. So as you can see, on the top portion here, we have a picture of the careers page. So the employer's careers page or careers section is the home of opportunity. It's your ticket to the future. It's like stepping into a world of endless possibilities where you can explore job openings. You can dive deep into this section to uncover not just job listings, but insights into the company culture, their commitment to employee development, and the exciting projects you could be a part of. It's your chance to find the perfect match between your skills and passion and a company that values and nurtures them. Do not be deceived or discouraged by the position titles you find here. A lot of the times, that's the feedback we get is, I pulled up the careers page, I put in the location I was looking for, and none of the job titles align with what I'm looking to do. Take the time to actually click into the position and read the position description. Employers use different terminology and titles for a variety of roles, and the only way you're going to know if you may qualify or be the right fit for that position is actually to read into the position description. And then we also have the About section posted here as well. So the About section, usually you can find that on the top page or portion of an employer's page, is really full of insights about the organization. It's where you can learn about the company's history, its mission and values, and the unique vibe that sets it apart from the rest. So think of this as a way to kind of see into the soul of the organization, right? What's their backstory? What matters to them? Soak that in, understand those details because those can help guide your conversation with an employer. It can create talking points as you're looking to ask questions and continue the relationship with an employer. And it's really an opportunity for you to find out if this is the organization that's going to be the right fit for you as well. Next slide, Katie. Okay, so you've learned how to start researching our participating companies. While you're doing this, you're going to want to craft what we call your information sheet that you can use while you're in the event itself. This sheet can be just a simple Word document that contains critical information that you can then share with an employer while you're in the breakout room sessions. It's going to allow you to have all your information consolidated into a single place where you can just copy and paste directly into the chat, or if they've provided an email in the chat for you, you can copy and paste that directly into an email and fire that off as necessary. So first and most important is going to be your contact information. So you want to have your name. We want to have a professional email, right? So, this is an opportunity where you may want to consider creating a separate email that you use for your job search process. If you're like me, I have an original email that I think I created about 20 plus years ago. I am aging myself. But what happens is that email is filled with a lot of spam. So creating that centralized email where you can kind of control what's coming in there and not lose sight of any employer engagement. Um, Put your LinkedIn URL on there, especially if you're planning to use that to continue to connect and navigate and network. It's really important to have that on there as well. I would personally recommend that you refrain from sharing your phone number. This is a public facing event, and so email and LinkedIn should be sufficient for them to reach you. But it does mean that you must check your email on a routine basis. As an active job seeker, we recommend checking it once every 24 hours during the business week. Next item that you should have on this information sheet that you're going to have is your 30-second elevator pitch. We're going to drop a resource in the chat for you that you can utilize to help develop your elevator pitch. This should be about 30-second introduction where you tell an employer who you are, what you do or what you feel like your strong attributes are, how you do it, why you do it, and who you do it for. So think about the audience, right? This is an employer that you want to get a job from. So tell them about your skills and experience and why they should invest in you as an employee within their organization. Next, we recommend making a list by company of any current roles that you may be interested in. You might want to consider also listing other types of roles that you're interested in, but maybe they don't have posted so that when you go into these breakout rooms, you can immediately identify, hey, I am interested in these 3 positions, who would be a great point of contact to talk to about these roles. Or maybe even putting, hey, I didn't see any of these types of positions listed, but I'm really looking to do this. Do you know if you'll have any of these types of roles opening? Workforce needs are ongoing and new jobs are added every day. So there's nothing wrong with listing maybe potential future opportunities that that organization might have available as well. We want to ensure that you have questions for the employers. Remember that these opportunities to network and engage with employers are a two-way conversation. So you should be ensuring that they are the right company for you while they're asking questions to make sure you're the right individual for them. We're going to drop another great resource in the chat that you can utilize to identify key questions of importance to you. And I would recommend having maybe 5 to 10 questions that are kind of your go-to ones that you can use in each one of the breakout rooms. And then you could even copy and paste their responses and answers into your document. And then finally, use this document to capture key contact information from the employers and their recruiters from the breakout room chat. So once again, this is meant to be that central document where you have the information that you want to relay to the employers and that you can then use to capture any information that they share with you. All right, Katie, next slide. Thank you. So here are some additional best practices to ensure a successful virtual career fair for yourself. We recommend using a computer for easier access to chat and breakout rooms, but if you have to use your phone, update your Zoom app, or you won't be able to see breakout rooms. So we run into that sometimes. Folks will be like, I can't see them. It's usually because they need to update the app on either their computer or their phone. So make sure that the app is up to date as you're getting into the session. We encourage the use of virtual backgrounds to minimize distractions. We know that not everybody is in the ideal setting. As you can see here, most of the Heroes team, we've got our Heroes Make America backgrounds on because a lot of us are working from home and you don't necessarily want to see what's going on behind us. So using a very simple background can really help minimize those distractions for you. Make sure to rename yourself so that employers know who you are. You don't want to be called by iPhone if you have a question. So best practice is first name and last name when you get in there. And you can test it out while you're in this platform right now if you need to. For me, it's usually just clicking in. There's usually a couple of dots in my picture and I can rename myself. You can also do it from your participant window as well. Be in a set physical location for 100% attention. No driving during the event. And if for some reason you absolutely have to drive, keep your camera off and just listen in until you're in a safe location. We do not want anybody to get into accidents, and it doesn't look great for an employer if they can tell that you're sitting in your car or driving while you're participating in the event. Dress for success. We know this is virtual, but treat it the same as an in-person career fair. Look the part. If you look good, you feel good, right? And first impressions do matter, even in a virtual career fair. So, having that polo on, right? Or a button-up shirt doesn't have to be super crazy, super fancy, but just looking the part and showing that you've taken the time and that you truly want to impress the employers that are going to be on the session. Have a PDF of your resume readily available so you can drop that in the chat as well. The reason PDFs are important is to make sure that the formatting doesn't get messed up. So Word documents are open formatting. So if you were to post it in the chat, it may mess up your bullets and make them look all skewed. Putting the PDF in there will prevent that from happening. And then like we talked about earlier, consider creating a separate email for job searching and be sure to update your resume with it. Like I said, if you're like me, the Gmail you created 15 years ago gets 100 spam emails a day, and you could very easily miss an important email from a potential employer. And then finally here is consider updating your LinkedIn URL. We're going to drop a resource in the chat here about how you can go in and update your LinkedIn URL to kind of shorten it, remove some of those numbers, and make it a little bit easier to navigate. And with that, I don't currently see any questions in the chat, so I'm going to flip it over to Katie at this time.
Thank you, Rachel. And I'll tag on to the updating of LinkedIn URL. Just like she mentioned, if you create a new professional email address to update that on your resume, same. If you update your LinkedIn URL and you're listing it in the contact information on your resume, make sure your correct updated one is on your resume. That can easily be forgotten as well. All right, so those are some great things to do before the event to make sure that you are ready to go, that you're prepared, that you can maximize your time during the event. Because sometimes it's a little bit chaotic when you get in there, right? There's just a lot of things going on. There's different people in the breakout rooms. And so having that stuff prepared ahead of time can make it a little more seamless. So now let's talk through. You did all that legwork to get to the event. Now let's talk through what the event actually is all about, right? What to do during the event schedule. I want to go over some logistics of selecting and navigating breakout rooms because sometimes if we don't know how to do it on Zoom, it can make it more stressful on the day of as well. So we'll talk about how to do that. And then again, some other best practices to implement during the event. So for Friday in particular, this Friday, like I said, the event is 11 to 1, but we will stay a little later if there's great conversation happening in the breakout room. From 11 to 11:30, I do want you to be aware of the importance of logging in on time or, a little bit early so that you can be led in from the weight room right on time. Right at 11, we'll kick it off. And that first half hour is important because we have employer presentations. And we do this so that you all can have a better understanding, right? You may have done your research online, you did all your prep work, but this gives you the opportunity to hear from those companies a little bit more about what they make, what they do, where they're located. Sometimes that information may be hard to digest on their website. So they have that opportunity to talk through it during that first half hour. Then once the presentations are done, we will release the breakout rooms. That we will open them, and you'll have the opportunity to select, your first one, go there, and then move between the events as you see fit during the hour and a half. I do recommend spending some time in each of them. So I would recommend staying at least for the full 2 hours of the event, and at minimum, going into every breakout room and talking with the employers, staying a few minutes. Usually they have some sort of additional presentation during the breakout room that they go over that you can listen and learn more about the company and have that follow-up conversation during the Q&A session. So that's the schedule of the event for Friday. I also want to go over how to select the breakout rooms. It may seem so simple, right? But if we've never done it, we may not know where to go and look. Okay, so when you are on Zoom, you can see here on the top, there is a control panel. So if you go on your Zoom, it's either on the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. When you hover over it, it's got things like the mute, the audio where you can mute yourself, unmute yourself, the video icon. And then you'll also see these four squares. That is the breakout room option. If you don't see it on your panel, though, don't stress. There is probably a circle with 3 dots that says more. You click on that, and then it'll have the breakout room option. You may or may not be able to see breakout rooms right now because we don't have them activated in this event, but on Friday you will. But it's as simple as you click on the breakout rooms, and then a list will pop up, a new window will pop up and show you all of the different breakout rooms that are available. And it will have all of the employers in separate rooms. And we usually order it by alphabetical order, so for easy access. It's very simple. You locate the one you want to go into, and then on the right, there is a join button, a blue join button. You click it, and that pops you on over from the main lobby to the breakout room, and then you'll specifically be talking with whoever it is, Niagara Bottling, Atlas Copco, or any of the other employers that we'll have on Friday. I will put a little plug though, just so you know, on Zoom, when you're going between the breakout rooms, you can't see chat history. And so I do encourage you, if you don't see any contact information from the employer, type in there. The employers may forget to continuously drop things in the chat. So if you have questions and need information, make sure you throw it in the chat and ask them, and they'll continue to drop it in throughout the event. When you are done with that breakout room, I would say try at least 15 minutes per breakout room, kind of really get a feel for them. They'll do a presentation, and then they'll go through some Q&A. You have the opportunity to ask questions, but try and spend a little time in each of them, and then continue on for the remainder of the event. But when you are ready to leave that breakout room, there's a button on the bottom right. Right now, it probably has leave as the option. When during the event, when the breakout rooms are active, it'll say leave room, and then a new window will pop up, and you'll get two options. So it's the option to leave the meeting or leave the breakout room. If you leave the meeting, you'll exit Zoom completely, and it is okay if you accidentally hit that. All you have to do is reconnect to the Zoom link. Just click it again, reconnect to the meeting. We'll let you back in from the weight room and we'll start again, right? It's not a big deal if you fall out of the meeting, but really what you want to do is leave breakout room, and that'll give you the option to jump to another one or come back to the main lobby and then go to your next one. So that is the how-tos on navigating Zoom in the breakout rooms. But I will echo what Rachel said is make sure that your Zoom app is updated every time we have someone who can't see the breakout rooms, and it's usually because the app is not updated. There are a few different best practices that I want to go over. One, making sure that you do log in early. It's so easy to forget, oh no, it's 11 o'clock on Friday and I forgot about the career fair that's happening. Set a calendar appointment reminder, on your calendar to go off 10 minutes before the scheduled time so that you can make sure that you're logged in and ready to go by the start time. I do recommend updating your name ahead of time. Like Rachel said, you can do it the day of, or I dropped in the chat that you can also go on the web version of your Zoom account and you can go through your settings and you can change your display name. I recommend doing that if you've got, no name associated with your account. I would at least just go in and do that, and then it automatically updates as needed every time that you go into a Zoom. Um, I do want you to know that when you log in early, though, you'll be put into a wait room. And so it'll say, like, waiting for host to start meeting or whatever it is to be let in from the wait room. Don't stress. We see you there. We just don't let anyone in until the scheduled time, and then we officially kick off. So if you're stuck in the wait room, don't stress. We know you're there. We will let you in. Another thing to just keep in mind, right, is to stay muted until you get to Q&A portion. Sometimes it doesn't automatically mute you when you first get in, so just make sure you're aware of that if you're logging in to make sure that your microphone is muted, just to remove any unwanted background noise and feedback that we might have. Okay. But if the host, advises you to open up for questions, then you may unmute yourself and of course, speak with the employers as they are going through their presentations or in their breakout rooms. Something that seems so like, oh, I never really thought about this, but you are on video and we encourage you to be on video. This is a networking event. Just be mindful of your facial expressions and what's happening in your video. So if it is on, just being mindful of what's going on that, we can see you when the videos are all up. With that being said, you do want to dress for the event. You may not need to be full suit and tie, but being presentable. If you're one of our Heroes Make America students, I highly encourage you to wear your Heroes Make America polo. All of our employers know what Heroes Make America is. We're sponsoring this virtual career fair. So wearing that polo identifies you as one of our students. But if you're not one of our students, that's okay. Maybe just dressing somewhat professional, maybe a collared shirt or a nice sweater of some sort, just making sure that you're dressing appropriately because this is an employer networking event. You never know what will come out of these. We have had participants on the career fairs get hired. Obviously, that's the goal, but they got hired directly from the event, right? And they were in the breakout room and then later applied and landed the job. So definitely it happens. That's the whole goal of the event. And then like Rachel said, is display that appropriate background, use that virtual event if needed. With all that being said, right, that's how-tos, log in early, mute yourself, be aware of your facial expressions in your video and what you're dressed and things like that. Okay. It's important to be an active participant. The whole point of this event is to be engaging and engaging for you as the job seeker. You're not only there to learn about companies, but to network. Some of you are actively in the application window where you're applying to jobs. And so this is an informational interview that you're meeting with these companies. Ask those questions that you might not want to wait until all the way to the interview to ask. Maybe you've got some things that you really need to know about a company before you move forward with them. This is your opportunity to ask some of that. This is part of the event. But like Rachel said, research the company, have that list of questions prepared ahead of time, and then be ready to go and engage the day of. All right. With that being said, though, I do highly encourage that we all be respectful, right? We are all, keep your contributions to those that are helpful and considerate, right? These events are made to be professional, career building opportunities. I recommend not interrupting the speaker when they're going through their spiel. No, wait for the time until they ask questions. And then, if the presenter doesn't provide it, ask for that contact information and send a thank you note after the event for any additional questions that you might have that maybe you didn't want to bring up to the big group, right? If there's several people in the breakout room. And then lastly, I do recommend that you provide feedback. We value your input. With our event in particular, we have a survey that pops up on your browser as soon as you leave the Zoom meeting. A survey will pop up that you can complete. I highly recommend, I beg you, please fill that out on your way out. We take all that information to heart as we adjust these events every time that we do them. And then really, if it's not just our event this week, but any event that you go to, if they ask for surveys, especially after career fair, I highly recommend doing them just to ensure that they're getting feedback and make it better, as they're preparing for the next event. But that's that's it really for some best practices when it comes to during the event and what you should be doing and being mindful of. I want to pass it back over to Rachel to talk through some things to do after the event. So Rachel, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Katie. And I'll add in on that be respectful bullet. Sometimes, you get into a breakout room and the conversation's going really well, and you find that, you've been kind of the primary person speaking for 15 or 20 minutes. Remember that these are meant to support the broader military community. So, if you're having a really great conversation and there's an opportunity, just say, hey, I'd love to continue, talking. Can we carry this to an offline conversation? That way, other folks that are in the room can have the opportunity to ask their questions as well. So with that, so after the event, so what you do after the event is as important to achieving success from a career fair as what you do before the event. So you've had the opportunity to engage with employers, you've captured key contact information. So what do you do next? Well, lucky for you, we're going to cover that in the next series of slides. So as you can see here, things don't stop when you click leave at the end of the virtual career fair. Not are you going to only get that survey that Katie talked about, and I will echo to make sure that you do that, but we've also created this flow chart so that to show you how to continue to capitalize on the interactions that you had during the event, right? So you should be continuing to research employers after the event, especially if you got into a breakout room, you didn't think you were interested in that employer and you learned a lot. Now you're intrigued and you're engaged. Um, Check out their careers page. Again, as we discussed early in the session, they're constantly updating their career opportunities. So just in the days ahead, they could add things that aren't on there today. Provide any deliverables that an employer requested. So if you're in the breakout room, you're having a great conversation, and they say, hey, send me your resume. Make sure that you do that. And when you do that, make sure that you share with them why. So in your email, don't just send an email and say, hey, here's my resume. It's, hey, their name. It was so wonderful to meet you during the Heroes Make America Career Fair on August 23rd. For our discussion in the breakout room, I wanted to make sure that I sent you my resume as requested. Connect with employers on LinkedIn and build your network. Even if that company or recruiter didn't have exactly what you were looking for, this creates pathways in which they can continue to engage you. And while it's a really big world in terms of employers and recruiting, it's also really small. Recruiters move from one organization to another. They're connected to recruiters at other companies. So building that network is just expanding the number of possibilities for you. Make sure, if you're able, to schedule a follow-up call or informational interview to learn more about that organization and or the careers that might be a right fit for you. Um, Send a post-event email to share about career opportunities that you're interested in, and we'll even have a sample that we'll share with you here in just a moment. And then apply, right? That's a really big part. Most organizations are going to require you, due to fair hiring practices and laws, to apply for a position before they can offer you a job. Landing that next career is the goal, right? So submitting those applications is going to be really key. Connect with our team if you do apply for one of those employers. We would love to share with them, hey, we're reaching out on behalf of this individual. They attended our virtual career fair and we wanted to create some visibility around their application for you. And you can do that by emailing heroes@nam.org, and we'll drop that email address in the chat here. And then share your success stories with us. We'd love to hear about how the event went and if you move forward with one of the employers. And then prepare for the next event by doing an after action report, an AAR. We did them in the military, right? So, what worked well, what didn't, and what could you do better next time? And then next slide, Miss Katie.
Rachel, before we
Yep.
move on, I do want to add something
Yeah.
because you had mentioned, continue to check their career page after the event. And I want to just stress the importance of that because, like Rachel said, that they continually update. But what you could do to make it a little more structured is set a battle rhythm. You know what I mean? Put it on your calendar. Monday mornings, maybe that's a good time for you to get into it and maybe set a battle rhythm of every Monday morning you go in and check these websites because literally they're getting updated daily, weekly. Um, so hold yourself accountable and set that schedule for yourself, whatever that, however frequently you want it to be. But I recommend setting some kind of battle rhythm. And then you had mentioned scheduling those follow-up calls with the employers. Critical, right? Gives you one-on-one time with these recruiters to follow on the conversation. But with that, I want you to treat it like an informational interview. Being in a place that has minimal distractions. Don't be in your car driving. Treat it just like we're talking about with the career fair. Be present, be engaged, be able to take notes. Don't have a lot of things going on in the background. Just to be able to maximize that time because usually it's short. Like a 15-minute conversation with them because they're very busy people. So I just wanted to add those two little tidbits as they're planning out their plan of action post event to remember those items as well.
No, I appreciate that. And to even add a little bit more, when you go to some of those career pages, sometimes you can also create a profile within that organization's career page, and you can set certain parameters so that as they post new jobs that are maybe in specific career fields that you're interested in or locations that you're interested in, that it sends you an email and flags that for you as well. So once again, that's another way to help sure that you're staying engaged with those companies' pages as well.
Exactly. And sometimes they even call it a talent community. So if you're looking for what that means or like what it looks for on a career page, sometimes it's called like a talent community where you can upload your resume and they can even have a bank of resumes to where if they have a posting available, they see yours and they can reach out to you for more opportunities. And you can set the alerts to have access when new postings are available. So great advice, Rachel. Thank you. Let me go to the next slide.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so this is an exceptional example of how one of our Heroes Make America students reached out to employers after our last virtual career fair. So there's just a couple of key items I want to point out here for you that I think really helped her stand out. So first and foremost, she led off by introducing herself and referencing how she met them. I talked about that just a moment ago, right? This is a great way to validate your email and ensure that you do not come across as spam. You're giving them a specific moment, a specific event to refer back to in regards to how you initially engaged with them. She also identified that she'd been researching the company and had found positions with their organization that she was interested in and where they were located, right? So she has even made it as simple as linking the positions. She's got the location she's interested in. So to me, as an employer, that stands out, right? You've done research, you've actually put effort into this engagement. You've taken the time to do your due diligence, and that's really attractive to an employer. And she made an ask, right? May I get some guidance from you before I apply? So this shows that follow through, that intent. She wasn't just reaching out and saying, hey, I applied. Can you help me get the job? She was showing genuine interest and a desire to be considered. And the nice thing is some of these organizations are willing to take a look at your resume and say, hey, maybe here's some changes I would make in order to make sure that you stand out more when you make it to the next step. She provided her resume for easy access and linked, like I said, the positions that she was interested in, just making it very easy for the company, right? The more you can simplify it for them, the less work that they have to do so that they can focus on your resume, they can pull up the job description, and they can compare those two. And like I said, potentially give you some feedback there. And then finally, she thanked him. And that's important, right? We want to be gracious. We want them to know that we're thankful for the time, for the effort, for the value that they see in the military community. And so always saying thank you. It's just always a best practice. Katie, would you add anything on this email?
I would just say on your signature line, I would reiterate your contact information. So under your name, putting your phone number and email address for easy access for them to see. Yes, they can pull up your resume. Yes, they can do all that, but these are busy people. And to provide any of that contact information for easy access, I would add that to the bottom as well. But that's all I would add.
Perfect. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. And then as we come to the end of our presentation, we will also want to share with you that um, how we expose and what information we provide to our employers after the event. So while we are encouraging you to stay engaged and follow up, we are also making that same ask of the employers who attend. So if you registered, they're going to receive your registration information and a copy of your resume if you uploaded it. So we're going to circle back to the beginning of the presentation where Katie talked about how you can use that registration confirmation to go in and modify your registration to add your resume. So even if you don't get that done, say by Friday, um, right after the event, even making sure it's uploaded so that when we send that follow-up email to employers, your resume is included. So that, just reinforcing the importance of editing your registration if you didn't originally provide this document. Be prepared for them to engage. We've said this a couple of times. Check your email and your phone, right? So this is why a dedicated email for job seeking may be best to ensure that things don't get lost. And making sure that your voicemail is set up and your inbox is not full. Employers would love to leave you a message, and it can be a little frustrating when they call and it says you can't leave a message because this voicemail is not set up, or you can't leave a message because the voicemail box is full. Um, because that's one of the quickest ways to engage with you as a job seeker. So making sure that is available to them, that voicemail box is really important. And making sure that you're responsive. If you delay and you wait 2 weeks to respond to an employer's email, it may show to them that you have a lack of attention to detail and timelines, and hiring moves very quickly. So if you wait 2 weeks, by the time you respond to that employer, that position may already be filled. So it's really important to be timely with your responses. Katie, anything that you'd like to add in on that as well?
Just that I know phone calls and voicemails are not necessarily the norm of our culture nowadays. A lot of people are texting. No one really calls each other anymore. I just want to reiterate that most, or just for awareness, because maybe you may not be aware of it. Most employers can't text you. They don't have that ability to on their work lines, and that is why they're not texting you. That's why they need to call you or they need to email you because they don't have that ability. So just sharing that why it's so important. Of course, so they can contact you, but also because they don't have the ability to send you a text, something as simple as that. But that's the only thing I would add, Rachel.
Perfect. Well, I think you can flip to the next slide, which I believe is our questions slide. So hopefully you learned a lot of really great things or feeling a little bit more comfortable or even a little bit more challenged in terms of what you need to do in order to prepare at least for the event on Friday. But what questions do you have for us?
Feel free to drop them in the chat, or what you can do if you want to be brave is ask your question live. There is the option to raise your hand in the reaction button on the control bar. Um, Raise your hand or drop it in the chat. Daniel.
Hello, I have a question about so like when you finish talking in the chat, like in the breakout rooms, how would you like then leave like in a a nice way without just like leaving?
It's a good question. Rachel, you want to?
So if it were me, and we had kind of come to the end of the questions, I would probably end with my thank you. Thank you so much for your time. If there's anything that you know need to follow up with, if you're going to be reaching out, I'll be reaching out to schedule a follow-up call, or I'll make sure I send my resume. But just making sure to kind of reiterate what I owe. And then thanking them for their time. And then usually by that point, somebody else is going to be stepping up to speak as well. Katie?
That's all great advice. If you're able to do that verbally, I would, right? Because maybe there's one or two or three of you in the breakout room. Maybe there's not a lot of people and you can have that conversation. If not, like let's say there's a ton of people in there and you don't get the opportunity to talk, dropping that into the chat also shows the employer that you paid attention, you were there, you're interested, you just didn't have the opportunity to chat. And you can even say, like, let's say, like I know one of the employers is going to share what's called a Calendly link. So Calendly is a platform where you can go on and schedule with the employer. Not everyone has it, but I know at least one employer this Friday is going to use it. That is your opportunity to get on her calendar, and you can even put in your chat like, "Thank you for your time. I went ahead and put time on your calendar for next week to talk about whatever type of position that you're interested in." Does that help, Daniel? Kind of give you that verbal thing to say, but then also dropping it in the chat?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. And to add to that, um, we do have a main lobby. And so when we talked about leaving the breakout room, you could leave the breakout room and come back to the main lobby. Like if you need a moment to like take notes and kind of get yourself together in between the conversations, feel free to pop back into the main lobby, take the time you need, make the notes you need. If at that moment you want to go on and schedule with that person, capture what you need to do, and then move on to the next one, or just create a to-do list for yourself so then you don't forget it.
Yep.
Rachel, would you add anything on that?
Nope, I think that's great.
Okay.
And I will be in the lobby. So during the breakout room session, I will be there in the lobby to answer any questions, assist in any way that I can. So yeah, like Katie said, feel free to come back. You could turn your camera off for a few minutes, kind of digest all that information, take care of maybe any deliverables that you want to get done right then and there, and then prepare for the to move into that next breakout room.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, Todd.
Yeah, so maybe just slightly off topic, but for an in-person career fair, obviously you're gonna carry some hard copies of your resume with you. Is there another like next generation way to distribute your resume, like electronic QR code, NFC? I've heard of Popple. What I'm not super familiar with that, but I guess it's some sort of a link. Like, is there something that uh, corporations are moving to make that more readily accessible to them rather than I've got to manage 50 hard copies of resumes from people?
That's a good question and a hard one at the same time, because I think it varies so much from employer to employer. We still have the folks at in-person career fairs that they prefer to have those tangible resumes in hand. Some are moving to having QR codes themselves on their own career table or on their own career fair tables, where they have you scan the QR code, fill out your information, and that way they can re-engage with you after the event. I'm not as familiar, and I'll default to Katie on this, with some of the more technologically advanced methods that they're using. But I know that like a lot of folks will exchange LinkedIn information as a way. So being able to pull that up on your phone and connecting with folks on LinkedIn to continue that conversation is another way that a lot of them will engage too. But you can even create your own business cards. I've seen folks do that as well.
Yes, to all of that. To add, some employers have software. I don't know the name of it, but I know it happens on their phone to where if you've got a hard copy of your resume, they can take a picture of your resume and it uploads into their software. So then they're not managing like emails with attachments and things like that. They can capture it right then and there to whatever software they use. So I know that has been something employers use. So still important to bring your resume. And then I also have the advice of making sure that you have like a PDF of your resume easily accessible on your phone. And that might be easier said than done because you're like, have a file, if you don't have a download option on your, whatever, an easy solution. Email yourself like a blank email and just attach the PDF of your resume. So then when you're at the career fair, you can very easily forward that email that has the attachment and send it to the employer. So then you've got, a copy on your phone. It's already in an email. You forward it, and you can type in a few things, I would acknowledge it was great to meet you at the, September 18th Fort Liberty Career Fair. We talked about X, Y, and Z. I've attached my resume for your reference. So instead of just sending them a blanket resume and they're like, who is this Todd guy? You know what I mean? You can put in some information about you and what you talked about. And they're like, oh, that was that guy. Yeah, he'd be great for this position. I know we talked about it. Hopefully that helps, Todd. I don't know, yeah, maybe necessarily the newfangled way to have an electronic version, but those are very realistic ways that we can have it readily available day of.
Right. Well, certainly there's almost no downside to having multiple options. But one company is, yeah, they're unpopular or whatever, and some other company is, they use QR codes or whatever. Having different options makes you more available to different companies.
Yes,
Absolutely. And I think
yes,
that's a good point you brought up for the other folks that are on the call too, just to know that they should have options available to
exactly.
themselves.
And I will make a little side note, and this is just from working career fairs a lot and talking with folks about it. Just another side note, if you're going in person, have your resume available, but make sure you're bringing it in something hard. So like a Padfolio or a file of some sort, so you're not rolling up a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Because we get nervous and we roll paper. Keep it in something to where it stays crisp and nice as you're going through the career fair. And another just personal suggestion if you're going in person, and this is just me because maybe I'm a talker and I talk a lot, have a bottle of water because you're going from table to table and you get a little dry and parched. And so I recommend if you're going in person, it sounds silly, but the day of, I promise it'll help, especially if you're in a hot state like I am in Texas. Things can get a little warm in those rooms. So just another side piece of advice. Rachel, we do have a question in the chat. Someone had asked, what are some good questions to ask the employer to make you stand out? Do you have any suggestions on that?
So we did drop a document in there. It's a little ways up. I'll make sure we copy it and get it posted down below in terms of good questions to ask. And I think that that's a really good starting point. One of the things I always tell people when they go to a career fair, whether it's in person or virtual, is there's an opportunity with that 30-second elevator pitch to even come in and say, hello, my name is, this is what my experience and background is in. This is what I'm really passionate about. What types of roles do you think I would be a good fit for within your organization? Because I think that really opens up a nice dialogue between you and an employer. You're telling them what matters to you, where you feel like you have strong skills, and you're kind of putting some onus on them to help identify positions that once again, maybe you didn't realize you qualified for because that's not a job title you would have thought to look for. So it gives you some of those tools for that post-event engagement where they say, hey, you'd be a great fit for a production planner position because you have such a strong logistics and supply background. May not have thought that initially, but now that you know, you're going to go look for that role after the event, whether it's even with that company or expanding it out to other organizations as well. And then if you've identified specific positions that you're interested in, I always like it when people ask kind of two questions that relate to the role. Can you tell me what a typical day or week looks like in this position to kind of get more of a perspective of that role? Um, and or what does an ideal candidate for this position have? Because a lot of the times we put things in job descriptions, but when you get to talking with somebody, they start thinking about something that they would really want that person to have. And that could be a little bit of information that you could put on your resume that'll make you stand out above your peers as well. So those are kind of my top ones that I think about. And
I
or why do you work for this organization? What do you enjoy about working for Cargill or Niagara or Atlas Copco? Um, and kind of learn about what, attracts them to the organization as well that maybe you weren't thinking about as part of your career search. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Oh, no, definitely. I would agree. I wanted to circle back to your comment about telling them about you and having them tell you what you'd be a good fit for. I don't want, I want to stress how big manufacturing is. Like this industry is huge. The companies are diverse. The roles are diverse. And just because we might be tunnel visioned into one type of job doesn't mean that there's not another one that could be a phenomenal fit for you that you didn't even know would be a good fit. And so often these companies, their job titles do not do that position justice, right? That you never would have guessed that that's what that position does unless you really read through it or someone explains it to you. You know, that's kind of one of those barriers, right? That maybe they're not good at necessarily explaining it. It's hard to understand, but when you really talk to someone about it, you're like, this is my ideal position. I never would have looked at this on a job posting. So I encourage you to, yeah, give them your skills so they can tell you what you could be a good fit for. I also encourage you, as part of your research this week or the next couple of days before the event, not only look at the companies, but I highly encourage you to do a good old Google search and research what are functional areas in manufacturing, what are different types of roles, different position titles. Just research the industry in general, and that might also help you identify some of these other positions ahead of time that you could ask about, right? So research isn't just about the companies, it's about the industry. So many folks that we see in the military, 99% of the people we work with don't have a manufacturing background and don't know about it. So this is a learning opportunity about the industry in addition to these employers in particular. That's not really a question I would ask, is following up on that. That's following up on that piece of advice. But I agree with the asking about culture, asking about the positions. Why do you work? Why do you like to work there? And then, of course, they're already going to give you information like locations and some of that logistical stuff that matters. Yeah.
And one other question you might ask, as a member of the military community, I think John Buckley says it best when he talks about building your perimeter as you get out of the military. And so I think even asking an employer about what do they have, an employee resource group for veterans? Do they have mentorship programs for veterans? Something where you can find a like-minded community. You can maintain some of that culture from the military and have those folks that can be your sounding boards that can ensure that you're successful as you move into a new organization. Or even, if other types of employee resource groups are important to you, asking about those as well. But I think that's a great way to see what a company is doing as well to support the military community that works inside their facilities.
And just to give you a little background, if you see, because this is a terminology difference, right? So an employee resource group, if you see it on websites, they often refer to it as an ERG. So if you've seen that acronym, it's called an employee resource group. And what that really is, so like Rachel talked about a veterans ERG, it's a sub community within an organization of people that have that similarity, right? So the veterans ERG are usually prior service, military spouses, or anyone affiliated with the military or who support the military. But that gives you a subculture organization, a community to be a part of at this company to help you feel welcomed, right? And a secure, a space for you to ask questions. So just giving you a little tidbit, because oftentimes we may not even know what an ERG is as we're moving out of the military. Jose,
Thanks, Katie.
JR.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for putting this on. A lot of great information here, a lot of great insight. I've done a few virtual fairs as I'm doing my journey of career, but I have one just simple question. Enter into the career page for a company, find multiple jobs, 3 or 4 that are similar, just titled different. Of course, they're going to have, their own each small details, but generally they come from the same department or same. Is it prudent to apply to all of them? Even though, I may have that top one that of course I'm going to apply for, but would it be prudent to apply for the other 3 also?
So as you can see, both of us are nodding our heads yes, but absolutely. And that's the recommendation an employer will make too, is to apply for any and all positions that you're interested in and that you meet the requirements for, or the bulk of the requirements for. And that's because you never know where they may be at in the hiring process for one of those roles. They maybe already have a candidate that's kind of along, pushed along that they're going to be making an offer to. So you don't want to just put all your eggs into one basket. So you're not hurting yourself by applying for multiple roles within an organization. So, Katie.
Agree. Yep, I would just apply and put your name in the hat for each of those. And then often they see it right as your interest, like you're interested in this company. You want to work for us. You obviously have applied to multiple positions and they can see, okay, maybe you're not 100% great, the best fit for this one, but you applied for these other two and these are actually better fits for your experience and your level of experience. And so they see, maybe they can place you in one over the other and look at that candidate pool for that one and to make you more competitive, right? So I think, yes, short answer, doesn't hurt.
Okay, thank you. And
Yep.
I know I cold called you the other day. I guess I'll call you back, reference
Yes,
that class stuff.
definitely, JR. Give me a call.
All right.
Great questions today, guys.
I know we're just about out of time. Do we have any final questions for the good of the group before we wrap it up today?
I don't see any hands up. I don't see anything in the chat, Katie.
Perfect. Then we're going to go ahead and close it out. Thank you all for joining us today. I think, some of us are seasoned in career fairs. This isn't your first rodeo, but others aren't. And I think hearing about it and even just small details that you can pull away from an event like this to make it a more seamless experience for you and more valuable experience. Career fairs, oftentimes we can be a passive participant, right? We're just popping in, listening, and not really engaging. Yes, that's important to learn about companies, but the goal is to engage with companies. Even if you're not ready to apply, networking takes time. If you're not going to apply for another 4 months because you're still transitioning out, you're not ready to apply, you're not ready to start working, here's where you're laying the groundwork for the networking efforts so that you can continue that conversation. And as you get closer, then as a job is available, you already have a contact to follow up with. This is just one of those opportunities to start that engagement. Rachel, do you have any final last words before we tell them about the other dates for the career fairs coming up?
Nope, I think you covered everything other than just engage. Guys, we just can't reiterate that enough. Like, put yourself out there. You just never know what will come out of these conversations. Just be willing. Don't be like you are at the in-person career fairs where you sometimes just quickly creep by a table, go in those rooms, learn and talk with these employers. We do this all for you just to ensure that you're successful and that you find that next meaningful career. So turn it back to you, Katie.
Definitely. So just a plug for upcoming career fair. So this Friday, if you're not registered, it is still available. Please go on to the link that Lauren had dropped into the chat to register or modify your registration if you need to. But then the upcoming in-person career fairs. If you happen to be at Fort Liberty or in the surrounding area, Fort Liberty, North Carolina, mark your calendars for September 18th, 11 to 1. If you're in Georgia, happen to be in the area, if you're at Hunter Army Airfield, if you're at Fort Stewart, November 7th is the career fair in person. We don't have listed here, but we also have another virtual career fair that we will do November 1st. We do the virtual ones quarterly. So keep your eye out for that as well if you're still on the hunt for a job come November. But thank you all today for being here, listening. Thank you to those who asked questions, but that's a wrap. We'll see you next time. Good luck at the career fair on Friday. We'll see you there.